welcome. My name is Katherine Goldstein. I am the chair of the Jefferson County Historical Commission. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about historical tourism in Jefferson County. And just to give you a little bit of information about the commission is a county commission that's made up of volunteers and some county employees. We are appointed by the Board of County Commissioners to serve 3-year terms. And our mission is to preserve Jefferson County's rich and diverse history and heritage, to help protect Jeffco's historical sites, and to celebrate the people and places that make Jefferson County rich, diverse, and significant. So we also publish, I'm sorry, I have to grab my mouse. We also publish a magazine called the Historically Jeffco Magazine. I have a copy here so you can see it. They are available online. And for those of you who are interested, we have a table downstairs and you can learn more about the magazine there. So I could talk for half a day about historical tourism in Jefferson County. So what I've decided to do is narrow it to just one small part of time and one location. So really I'm going to focus on early 1910s, so around 1910 through 1920. And the area is the Jeffco foothills, so Golden, Morrison, Mount Vernon Canyon, that sweep of the area. So just to give you an idea of what's going on at that time, Denver was settled in 1858, and Golden was founded in 1859. By 1910, Golden had a population of around 2,400. Denver had a population of around 213,000, so it is a thriving city. And Colorado's economy is basically coming back from the collapse that it experienced when the silver market crashed in 1893. So now that the economy is coming back, people have a little bit more time and a little bit more money to recreate. And if you're living in Denver at this time period, Denver's hot, Denver's crowded. So what do you want to do? You want to get to some place that's cooler. Well, guess what? If you go up into the Denver foothills, it's going to be a little bit less hot. Generally up in Genesee, I used to live up there, it's about 10 degrees cooler up in Genesee. So great place to go and recreate. So at that point in time, people don't have, cars exist, but people don't have, a lot of people don't have cars. So basically they're going to take the train out of Denver to Golden, to the foothills areas, to Morrison. There isn't even a road at that point in time. And just to tell you how scarce cars are, I found a notation in the Denver Municipal Facts from 1909 that said, City of Denver gets its first automobile patrol wagon, and it's one of the first large U.S. cities to do so. So that kind of tells you where we are. And also, Lookout Mountain Road is not open at that point in time. So I'm going to focus on 3 what I call boosters of Jefferson County recreation. And they were basically setting up these recreation areas for profit. The first one is John Brisbane Walker, who established Red Rocks and Mount Morrison. The second one is Reese Bidler, who established recreation up on Lookout Mountain. And the third one is Charles Acquaintance, who established the Dance Hall Pavilion up on top of South Table Mountain. And each of these gentlemen, as part of their recreation areas, built a funicular. How many of you know what a funicular is? Oh, we have a lot of funicular fans. Okay. Well, the way that I think of them is they're like the escalator of trains, basically. So what they do is they go up short distances, very steep. So I've read that they use them in mining, they use them in ski resorts these days. But these were used for people. They were used for tourism. And with a funicular, usually they had 2 cars, and they would basically pull each other using some sort of electric pulley in the middle. And they would either be on separate tracks running like this, or they would be on one track and they would have a passing track somewhere along so that they could get around each other. So examples that you might be familiar with, the Manitou Incline. I don't know if any of you ever heard of that. It doesn't exist any longer, but a lot of people know about the incline. So Oh, it's the well, the Manitou Incline is not a railroad anymore. It's just a really hard hiking trail. Oops, that didn't work. Okay, there we go. So, I'm going to talk first about John Brisbane Walker. And let me just say that with Walker, I could talk an entire hour about Walker and never finish. He was just extraordinarily important in the history of Jefferson County and Denver. He was an entrepreneur. He made money in New York with the Cosmopolitan magazine. It's not the same one, but it was more like a Reader's Digest. But in any event, he came back here and he purchased the land that is Red Rocks in 1906. He also owned the land that is Mount Falcon. And in fact, if any of you have hiked up in Mount Falcon, Jefferson County Open Space Park, there's the Walker Castle ruin, and that was his house that he built. And there's also the Summer White House ruin, and that again was his idea to build a White House, summer recreation for the presidents, which never really took off. But in any event, and this, what you're seeing on screen, this article is an article that I wrote in 2016 that appears in the Historically Jeffco magazine. So if you want more information than what you hear today, you can check out my article. So I don't know if Walker had anything to do with this, but apparently there was a donkey concession in Red Rocks. And some of the dates on this make me believe that it predates him. There's an indication that it was, where did I see that? 1897 was when this concession was started. I don't know the background of it. This picture is from the Jefferson County Archives. And I do want to mention that the pictures here, as you'll see, the credits, I don't own the rights to them. They are owned by museums, and you'll see, which ones are which on the credits. So John Brisbane Walker decides to build a funicular. And he opens his funicular with a grand opening on August 7th of 1909. This is the brochure, the program from the opening. And by the way, I just love historical pictures, historical brochures, so you're going to see a lot of them in my presentation. I'm going to focus a lot on them.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So according to Georgie Brown, have any of you heard of Georgie Brown? Okay, we have a few. So she was, I wanted to say a little aside about her. She was a journalist. She wrote for the Jefferson County Republican, the Golden Outlook, and the Golden Transcript. And in order to write these articles, she conducted interviews of Jeffco pioneers and their family members, and she authored a book, which actually I have here with me, called The Shining Mountains. And if any of you are interested in doing a deep dive into Jefferson County history, I recommend this book. I call it thick with history. And the reason I say that is her writing is so detailed. She just does fabulous descriptions of people, of places, and very detailed about timelines. So in any event, Georgie Brown said about the funicular in Red Rocks that the cars were white and trimmed with delicate shades of red and black. Each sat 80 people, and they pivoted from the middle. They adjusted themselves so that when you're going up this steep incline, it would even out so that you weren't, perched on the edge of this precipice. You were actually sitting upright, looking as you ascended at Denver. So pretty magnificent view. So Walker opened his funicular with a grand opening on August 7th of 1909. As I mentioned before, people came there by train. They didn't have the access to automobiles that we have today. And the train cost 60 cents. Thought that was on there somewhere. And it was a big event. So Governor Saffroff and Vice President of the Colorado and Southern Railway were there giving speeches. And there was a concert at Creation Rock by Cetrino's band. So how many of you have been to Red Rocks Amphitheater? Okay, so you know how you're sitting in Red Rocks, you're in the audience, and you're looking down at the stage. On your left, there's a huge rock. On your right, there's a huge rock. The rock on your left is called Creation Rock. The rock on your right is called Shiprock. Does anybody know where Shiprock got its name?
Looks like you should.
Well, that's a good surmise. I don't know, but I've made sort of a leap of logic. I think it got its name from this, the sinking Titanic and iceberg, Park of the Red Rocks. So this was something that Walker pitched, that you could see basically a reenactment of the sinking of the Titanic in the rocks, and I think that's shiprock. So anyway, this is another historical postcard from the Jeffco archives. And I also want to take another aside about historical resources. These are called Sanborn photographs or postcards, and it's from the Sanborn Souvenir Company, which was in existence from 1920 to 1960 about. Mr. Sanborn drove around Colorado, Wyoming, and other parts of the West, and he took these magnificent pictures, and they would become postcards, and they were sold in the dime stores, and some of them were colorized like this one.
Is it the same Sanborn with the maps?
I don't believe so.
Oh.
I haven't heard, I've never heard that, and from my understanding, he focused on pictures and postcards. Okay, this is one of Walker's brochures advertising Mount Morrison. And you can see, here's the funicular right there, and here's the funicular track. There's the rocks, shiprock and creation. And let's see, I want to highlight a few things off of here.
What were the dates of these?
This, I believe, is about 1913 that this was taken. You'll see why in a minute. So, as you can see, Walker called this the Park of the Red Rocks and Caves of the Titans. And by the way, this is a History Colorado brochure from their collection, and that's where you can find it if you're looking to see it. It's in MSS 872. So the other thing you see is that he talks about, where is it? The sinking Titanic and the fatal iceberg. So he's really pitching this. The most appalling sea disaster of the world depicted with startling realism amid the red rocks. And then below here it says, look, scenic marvel of the age, discovered June 23rd, 1912. Do you all know when the Titanic sank?
April 1912. 14.
No, it's definitely before this. But yes, it's I have this somewhere.
Like right around 1900, wasn't it?
No, it's
1912.
It's 1912.
Because Arizona was founded too. Arizona became a state.
Yeah, so the Titanic sank on April 14, 1912. And this was discovered on June 23rd of 1912. What a great coincidence, right?
It was there for thousands of years.
Right. The other thing I love about this is talking about the dinosaurs, the former dwelling place of prehistoric life where giant saurians roamed at will. And he mentions that fossils of these creatures are found in the area. So I love the showmanship of these brochures and of Walker and his cohorts. So Walker would go on to have concerts here, and in 1911 there was a concert by the renowned opera singer Mary Garden, and she praised the acoustically perfect natural amphitheater, which, as we all know, has now become a world-class concert venue. So let's see.
Are you going to give us more? I can't picture where that is.
Where what is?
Where I pictured your rocks. I mean, thank you for that. But where did the incline go?
So yeah, the incline, that's true. It is hard to picture. That
Because it
picture
looked
doesn't
like it
show
was
well.
behind it or something.
So it ends at Creation Rock, and it goes up Mount Morrison because he was trying to get people to the top because he had a hotel. So yes, so there was a whole thing. Yes,
Above
Red
the
Rocks.
Titanic.
Above, right, right, above the Titanic, exactly.
Okay.
So, so this is, again, this is part of that brochure, and I wanted to point a couple of things out to you. One is, see if I can see it, this the Cave of Seven Ladders. How many of you knew there are caves in Red Rocks? So, they used to be open to the public, they are no longer open, but I mean, they just look marvelous to me. So there was also, along with the caves, you can see it right here, there was a rock walkway up Creation Walk to the top. And at the top, there was a platform where 70 people could fit, and they would have concerts up there. So I just think that was pretty phenomenal.
Do you know when they stopped that?
I do not. I wish I did. So Here is another postcard, and this is showing a view from inside the cave of Saturn inside creation. Yeah.
Oh,
And actually, that picture is on either the prior page or the next page. Let me just see. It's not the next page. So anyway, there's a picture of this in the brochure. So eventually, in 1927 or 1928, Walker sold Red Rocks to the city of Denver. And according to Georgie Brown, it sold for $50,000. So kind of an amazing win for Denver, I think.
How much did you say?
50,000
in 1920.
in 19. She has it at 1928.
So things were crashing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know how much he paid for it?
I do not. Sorry. Okay, and then one more of these historic postcards because I just love them. And these historic postcards are from the Jefferson County Archives, although there are a lot of areas where you can find these collections because they were pretty widespread in the day. This kind of amuses me because I have been all over Red Rocks and Mount Morrison, and I couldn't tell you where that is. So my guess is it doesn't exist anymore, but it's very cool. So, okay. So now we're going to switch from Walker and Red Rocks, and we're going to move over to Lookout Mountain. So Lookout Mountain was basically developed by a gentleman by the name of Reese Vidler. Vidler was an Englishman who came to America in 1882. Brown described him, as I said, she loves to describe people, and she described him as debonair, handsome, charming, and social. He was a mining engineer who made his fortune building tunnels for the railroads. And so he basically made plans to build the Lookout Mountain Resort up on the top of Lookout Mountain, which would be a lavish affair with golf courses, tennis courts, and pavilions. Now, the resort was not Reese Vidler's idea. Plans for the fabled resort began in the 1880s, and would-be investors included Horace Tabor and other names that you would recognize from the history of Denver. But the early plans to build this resort died with the silver crash. Vidler, however, he had a cabin on top of Lookout Mountain, and he decided, yeah, we're gonna make this happen. And so Vidler created the Lookout Mountain Park Development Company, and he was its president. He filed a subdivision plat with Jefferson County in 1910, which showed the hotel and the site grounds to the parks. Now, Vidler sold real estate, and his real estate office was on the top of Lookout Mountain. So he decided that in order to bring people up there to buy real estate, because that's what he was trying to do ultimately, was sell real estate up there, he would build a funicular to bring people up to the top of Lookout Mountain. So here is a brochure for Lookout Mountain Park. You can see a picture of the funicular right there. Not quite as grandiose as Walker, like you don't see the sinking Titanic rebuilt in rock. But what you do see is Lovers Walk in the Aspen Grove, and you see Wildcat Point is up there somewhere. So, you know, a lot of fun stuff. He did his best. And what he would basically try to pitch was that Lookout Mountain was an ideal place for picnics, where you can see many lakes. You can see Denver with her beautiful streets, suppliers, towns, and massive buildings. So yeah, and there's also, there's a picture of Colorado Point. Where is it? It's a little too blurry for me to make it out. But in any event, I don't know if any of you know where Colorado Point is. I think maybe two of you know. You're looking at me like, no. So it's across from Betcher Mansion and the Lookout Mountain Nature Center.
I think it's in the right page.
This one?
Yeah, the one with this big slope going like that. That's what I think.
Okay. All right, so here is another picture of the funicular. This is one of the postcards, and that's from the Golden History Museum's collection. Also from Golden History, we have the panorama, light lunch, and groceries. So what they wanted you to do was ride the funicular up to the top of Lookout Mountain, buy your picnic lunch at Panorama, go out and walk in the aspen groves, enjoy the scenery, and then buy real estate. So that was the whole idea.
So this funicular was a lot longer than the one at Red Rocks.
I actually don't know the distance. I'm guessing it's probably about the same, because Red Rocks went all the way up to the top of Mount Morrison and came down at Creation Rock. What I don't know is where this one ended. So it's hard to tell from this postcard or from any of the photos that I've seen. Yeah, I keep thinking, is that coming all the way down to 93? Probably not. It's just hard to tell from. I'll bet Georgina has the answer, but.
Did you see
Do you
any
know?
proof of that in the mountains anywhere when you went strolling with students?
So I was going to get to that a little bit later. The funicular scar from this funicular, I have barely noticed it before. I can kind of barely see it in the wintertime, but not well. The one in Morrison, I've seen some rock base that I think is where the funicular was, because I know where it was. The one on South Table Mountain is lit up like a Christmas tree. It's really easy to see that scar. So, and I haven't gotten there yet, but okay, so let's see. Oh, well, I was gonna say one more thing about Reeves Vidler, and that is that eventually he donated much of his land to the city of Denver, and that includes Lookout Mountain Park and the land where the Buffalo Bill Museum and grave sits. So now we're on to our third gentleman, and this is Charles Acquaintance, and he was the developer of South Table Mountain, the recreation on South Table Mountain. And the reason I put Rozzy in quotes is that according to Georgie Brown, that was his nickname, and it came from the way that he pronounced roses. And I'm not quite sure how that would work, roses. But anyway, he was a businessman, and he owned, sorry, I can't find it in my notes. He owned basically an investment company. And one of the things that he would do is he would rent burros. He would sponsor burro rides, and people could come from Denver. They would get on these burros and they would ride up the trails to the top of South Table Mountain. And once people got onto the burros, he would take pictures of them. I don't know if he did this personally or had crew, but anyway, he would take pictures of them. And by the time they came down the mountain from their burro ride, he would sell them the pictures. So he was always looking at the different opportunities. He was definitely a champion of tourism in Golden. So here's a picture of one of the historic postcards from Golden History Museum of the top of the funicular on top of South Table Mountain that's looking downward toward Clear Creek. And I just can't say enough about him. I love these historic postcards. But so Charles opened a dance hall and casino on top of South Table Mountain. And he and his brother later came up with the idea to build the funicular. He also was responsible for building the automobile road that went up there. I guess it still does, but we don't do that now. So here is a brochure for South Table Mountain. And you can see we've got a picture of the funicular here on the left, and you can see that's Castle Rock at the top. Do you all know where Castle Rock is? I mean, can you picture it? Because a lot of people, I say the Castle Rock funicular, and they think, oh, that's down south. And no, it's on top of South Table Mountain. It's that little thing that sticks up. And so the funicular came all the way down into Golden, and then rode all the way up to the left of Castle Rock. And then there was a set of stairs going up Castle Rock. I don't know if there's a picture of that. I don't think so. But anyway, there's a set of stairs, and then there was a platform on top where the dance hall and casino were. So what he tended to pitch as the tourism, come see, was all the views of Denver. He would say, boy, from the top of this, you can see Denver, you can see all the buildings in downtown, you can see all the glorious lakes. He strung electric lights all over the grounds, and he had trails, and you could walk along the trails. And then he had a free telescope where you could go look at night, and you could look out and see the lights of Denver. He also had a spotlight that would light up the surrounding land, and you can see that up here in this picture, this part of the brochure. So once again, he was a real showman. The dance hall did burn down in 1927. There are some remnants up there. It is, last I heard, private property, so don't go exploring up there. But the things that I recall, before I knew it was private property, were that you can still see some of the stairs and the concrete platform. And as I said earlier, this funicular scar is very, very visible. If you're in Golden, just look up to Castle Rock, look to the left, and you'll, now, especially now that you know what it is, you'll see the scar. Okay, so, you know, I noticed that I forgot to mention one thing, and that was about the Lookout Mountain funicular. And forgive me, I'm going to be a little bit sketchy about these details because I went to go look for my research notes and I couldn't find them. But when I wrote the article, I was reading through all the historical newspapers about the funiculars. And one thing that I saw was this article about Lookout Mountain. And they talked about when they took the rails down, because these funiculars are riding on these train track rails, heavy metal rails. And so they eventually took them down to sell them for scrap metal. And the newspaper article that I was reading said that with the Lookout Mountain one, they decided to roll the rails downhill. And can any of you picture that? These gigantic metal rails rolling down the hill. If you've ever hiked Lookout Mountain, you might notice that it's pretty rocky. So when metal hits rock with momentum, it sparks. So they started a fire on Lookout Mountain when they dropped these rails. And I just found that story to be quite hilarious. So once the Lariat Loop Road, which is Lookout Mountain Road, was built in 1913, the amount of people who wanted to ride these funiculars kind of fell out, and automobile tourism really picked up in the foothills. And so little by slowly, each one of these funiculars went out of business. So really, you know, the earliest one was opened in 1909, and I think they were all gone by 1917, maybe 1919 at the latest. So they really didn't have a long tenure, but they're still really cool. And I love the historic pictures of them and the fact that we had 3 of them in Jefferson County. So I do have some time left, and so I want to talk just a little bit about the Denver Mountain Parks, because it's really hard to talk about tourism in Jefferson County without talking about the Denver Mountain Parks. But it's a little bit of a disconnect because they're Denver Mountain Parks, not Jeffco, which is an interesting issue. So John Brisbane Walker, our friend from the Mount Morrison, he was one of the people who championed getting Denver to buy pieces of property up in the foothills of Jefferson County and other places. They have some other mountain parks that are not in Jefferson County. I think they're in Summit. I could be wrong. But what they were trying to do, by and large, was 2 things. One, they were trying to have a place for people in Denver to go recreate. So this was sort of, hey, this is your park, go recreate. And then number 2, they were trying to preserve the scenery. They didn't want the mountainsides to be built up. So they carved out some of these best lots of land, like Red Rocks Park and Lookout Mountain, and other of the Denver mountain parks. You got that one up in Evergreen, where Evergreen Lake is. You've got Genesee Mountain Park that was built in 1913. That was the first one to open. And in connection with these Denver mountain parks, that was why they built the Lariat Loop Road, was to get people up there. So I have a couple of these historic photographs, or historic slides, that show you the views along the Lariat Loop. So this is looking down this is Lookout Mountain Road, looking down into Golden. This is the double hairpins on Lookout Mountain Road.
Is this at a time when people would have to be pretty rich to own those cars?
My guess would be yes. I don't think that they were that common, but I think they also did tours. Like I think you could rent somebody driving you around in one of these cars. I've heard of referred to as touring cars. This is one of my favorite things in the world. This is a spring house, and this is located on one of the hairpin turns, or it was. There's still a little bit of remnant of it up there, but basically, so when people had these automobiles, remember they have those radiators that ran on, that you had to keep full of water? Well, you know, you drive up Lookout Mountain and guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna run out of water. So they had these spring houses where you could get water, both for your car, for yourself, you know, stop and have a picnic, whatever. So I just love the spring houses. And there are ones all over Lariat Loop. So here's Wildcat Point on the Lariat Loop. This is Buffalo Bill's grave. That's up at the top of Lookout Mountain and part of Lariat Loop as well. And then Lariat Loop came out and exited through Bear Creek. So this is a picture taken along Bear Creek. And here is the entrance on the other side of Bear Creek. So enter on Lookout Mountain, go up through Evergreen, come back down through Bear Creek.